This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, and faith-focused feature stories with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Bad medicine. Good Friday afternoon. Welcome to the broadcast. The U.S. Justice Department may soon investigate hospitals that perform sex change operations on kids. At issue is the improper billing of health insurance companies. Fox's Anita Vogel says this case stems from a scathing HHS report on trans medical fraud.
The report, called Wolves in White Coats: How Doctors and Hospitals Pushed and Profited from Gender Medicine, comes just a couple of days after the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services cut off Medicaid funding to hospitals that offer gender-affirming care for minors.
This report suggests hospitals and doctors engaged in deceptive practices to get more reimbursement money from insurance companies. Nationally renowned detransitioner Chloe Cole.
If we're being honest, the entire transgender industry from top to bottom is a complete scam. So it's no surprise that this industry that relies upon lying to patients, their families, and to the general public about basic ideology would be so chock full of fraud.
Surgical procedures related to gender dysphoria can cost anywhere from $50,000 to $150,000 per patient. The Wolves in White Coats report alleges hospitals push this diagnosis on minors to file more than $50 million in claims. Luigi Mangione expected to plead guilty today to federal charges in connection to the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. The 50-year-old father of two shot to death at point-blank range on a New York City sidewalk in December of 2024. Former federal prosecutor Andrew Cherkasky.
He gets to go in, plead guilty, say his piece, and hope that a federal judge doesn't issue the life sentence and gives him something a little less than that.
Mangione's the privileged 28-year-old son of a wealthy Maryland family who raged against corporate America. He was captured 5 days after the murder at a McDonald's restaurant in Altoona, PA. Legal analyst Jonathan Turley does not think a guilty plea will change the fate of Luigi Mangione.
Most people believe that the only proper sentence here is life because this was an intentional act. He's enjoyed the celebrity status.
The plea comes less than a month after Mangione is set to go to trial on state charges. It is possible those charges could be dropped due to New York's law against double jeopardy. That's a rule that prevents the government from punishing a person twice for the same crime. A new aircraft carrier is headed to the Middle East after reports of mental health concerns aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln. The USS George Washington left recently from Vietnam and will be replacing the Lincoln, which has been at sea for over 265 days. Here's NBC's Garrett Hake.
The sailors and Marines aboard the Lincoln have been through a deployment that has now gone on so long they haven't set foot on dry land in 2026. Reports of the conditions aboard the ship and of these disturbing man overboard incidents first began to surface in military-focused news outlets like the Military Times. Now, more family members are speaking out and lawmakers are demanding answers.
War Secretary Pete Hegseth says the military makes sure that every ship and every crew has everything it needs at every single moment. More than 5,000 sailors and Marines aboard the Lincoln have not set foot on dry land since December. A retired military leader is offering a rosy assessment of the war with Iran. Army veteran Jim Hansen says the U.S. stranglehold on Iran is working.
And if I had to bet right now, I would say the Islamic Republic of Iran is unlikely to survive the full term of the Trump presidency. So he's created the conditions for the collapse of that regime and a chance for the Iranian people to put in a better government.
Former CIA station chief Dan Hoffman.
We're almost in a war of economic attrition. Iran wants to exact a price on the world economy, and we have effectively blockaded Iran and really wreaked havoc on Iran's economy. Their currency is in free fall.
The war secretary says the naval blockade in the Strait of Hormuz could continue indefinitely. An American missionary held hostage for almost a year in northern Africa is now on his way home.
Kevin Rideout was kidnapped last October outside of his home in the capital of Niger. It's unclear who seized the 50-year-old missionary pilot. U.S. officials told the New York Times Thursday that Rideout is now in U.S. custody and in good health. Rideout had been a Christian missionary in Niger for 19 years. His release has been a priority for the White House since his abduction. I'm Mark Mayfield.
Thank you, Mark. Tennessee and Oklahoma put inmates to death within 30 minutes of each other yesterday. Alabama followed suit hours later. It marks the first time that 3 death row inmates were executed on the same day in this country since 2010. Cleanup continues in Indiana from historic flooding there. Governor Mike Braun's declared a statewide emergency after the Hoosier State saw more than 2 feet of rain in a span of 36 hours.
That is more rain that you're going to get in probably 100 years.
Communities like Anderson, Indiana, Cambridge City, and Muncie saw record rain, which led to flash flooding and emergency evacuations. This woman telling NBC,
"How are you even taking this in right now?"
I'm not. Everything's gone.
More than 250,000 homes and businesses are without power today in Indiana. The National Guard has been called in to assist in storm recovery efforts. There's trouble in Paradise in the name of Lala. Tropical storm Lala will likely blow up into a hurricane as it approaches the Big Island of Hawaii. Landfall expected early tomorrow. Forecaster Mike Seidel.
If it makes a landfall, it'll be only the 7th landfalling storm or hurricane in the Hawaiian Islands in about 75 years.
Lala could become the first hurricane to make landfall in Hawaii in 34 years. 2 feet of rain and 70-mile-per-hour winds are expected there this weekend. New poll shows the GOP in the lead in the U.S. Senate race in Michigan. It's a race that could help determine control of Congress next year. The survey shows Trump-backed Republican Mike Rogers clinging to a 4-point lead over Democratic Socialist Abdul El-Sayed. Rogers explains what's at stake in Michigan come November.
We're protecting our faith and our families and our factories and our freedoms, while he's advocating doing away with our fireworks, football, the 4th of July.
Rogers says El-Sayed is too far left for Michigan voters. This is a race to replace the retiring Democrat Gary Peters. Should Republicans win that seat in Michigan, Democrats would need to flip 5 others to take back control of the Senate next year. Vice President J.D. Vance is singing the praises of capitalism. He says it is the only economic system that works.
As much as I love the free market, you stop socialism by making people's lives better. And that's what we're trying to do every single day.
Vance says economic woes are fueling socialism's rise.
Our response to socialism can't be just to ignore the economic concerns that I think are feeding this rising interest. If we don't get this right, don't blame young people for being sympathetic to socialism. We've got to blame ourselves.
GOP strategist Luke Ball.
Socialism has never worked anywhere. It has never outperformed the free market, and it never will.
Several Democratic socialists emerged victorious in their primary elections this year and hope to win a seat in Congress after the midterms in November. The Philadelphia Phillies took down the Minnesota Twins in the cornfields of Iowa last night. It was the first time in 4 years that Major League Baseball hosted a game at the Field of Dreams ballpark in Dyersville, Iowa. That stadium's built on the site of the 1989 classic movie starring Kevin Costner. Almost 30 Hall of Famers emerged from the corn as part of the pregame ceremony. It was aired exclusively on Netflix. Still to come on the Noon Report, Trump stumps in New York, freak cause for fatal wreck, and Shapiro sues again.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams. The weekend is upon us, looking like a 50-50 affair weather-wise. I'll explain in the forecast. That's up in 10.
All right, Kevin, see you in 10 minutes. President Trump is in New York today to tout dropping crime rates. He'll tour the police academy in Nassau County, which is on Long Island, and we'll talk about what the White House calls an historic drop in violent crime nationwide. Mr. Trump will be joined by Republican gubernatorial candidate Bruce Blakeman. Police say the woman responsible for a fatal crash in Clearfield County, Pennsylvania, is blaming a bug for causing that accident.
55-year-old Brenda Cobb from Brick, New Jersey, told police that she was distracted by a bug that flew into her SUV just moments before the collision. She is now facing multiple felony charges related to the crash.
WJAC's Emily Marinas. Cops say Cobb crossed the center line on Route 322 in Brady Township and then slammed head-on into a motorcycle. The 34-year-old male driver and a 30-year-old female passenger were killed. A Jamestown, New York mom and dad are being charged with a crime after police say their juvenile son led them on a 20-minute e-bike chase. Justin and Monica Barr accused of endangering the welfare of a child for failing to exercise control of that child. Both the parents are being held in the Jamestown City Jail. The child was released to another guardian. Further charges are pending. New York's investing almost $125 million to build a 133,000 square foot hospital in Fredonia. It's set to open in 2029. While announcing the project yesterday, Governor Hochul blasted the Trump administration for slashing healthcare funding in the Empire State.
The state has had to step in after literally 1 year ago when the big, ugly, horrible bill was passed and withheld $10 billion in health care money from the state of New York. That is a big hit.
The governor says rural hospitals are reeling from rising costs and staffing shortages.
People ought to pay attention to why these pain points have occurred. It is not the state of New York. We're investing millions of dollars in health care. But the federal government is walking away from its responsibilities.
But Republican State Senator George Borrello says the only way that hospital in Fredonia gets built is because of funding from the Trump administration.
She's not correct. There is $50 billion with a B for rural hospitals in the bill that she was bashing. The governor is out here cutting ribbons on places that the federal government has financed. And, the fact that she's trying to blame the federal government for something, it's just election year politics for her.
The new 15-bed Northern Chautauqua Hospital will improve access to health care for residents in Chautauqua, Cattaraugus, and Erie counties. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro is suing the White House again. He's joined a lawsuit against President Trump to stop the federal government from getting access to commercial driver's license records. This lawsuit claims that the federal government is breaking privacy law. Earlier this year, an illegal immigrant who obtained a commercial driver's license in Pennsylvania caused a fatal wreck in Indiana that killed 4 people. A new study by the Business Council of New York shows 8 in 10 New York residents are concerned their utility bills may become unaffordable within the next year. The struggle's real for Katie Hutchings in Western New York.
Anxious, frustrated, overwhelmed. I knew I was behind. I had lots of bills.
Hutchings is a doctorate graduate from the Eastman School of Music in Rochester. She tells Spectrum News her power was shut off without her knowledge.
I didn't hear a doorbell ring. I didn't hear anything. I just woke up and my electricity was off. And there was a notice on the door saying, "We stopped by. We missed you. We shut your electric off."
Hutchings says her power was not restored until she paid the bill in full.
This is all embarrassing to admit publicly. I mean, I am not proud of this.
Just during the month of May, National Grid shut off electric and natural gas service to over 15,000 customers for non-payment. Niagara Mohawk did the same to more than 13,000 customers, and NYSEG cut service to 10,000 homes, all during the month of May. A case of measles has been confirmed in Tioga County, New York. An unvaccinated resident is under self-quarantine. Since measles is a highly contagious airborne foreign virus, public health officials have conducted thorough contact tracing. Pennsylvania is sending help to battle the wildfires out west. A crew from the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources is headed to the state of Washington. Here's Family Life's Sarah Harnish.
Catastrophic wildfires near Spokane started 2 weeks ago and have destroyed over 700 homes and other structures. The fires, which have also impacted southwestern Canada, forced widespread evacuations across communities in both countries. The Pennsylvania team left last night. Sarah Harnish, Family Life News.
Thank you, Sarah. A back-to-school collection drive netted big results recently in the Pennsylvania state capitol. Real estate agents around Harrisburg teamed up to help out students who are headed back to the classroom. They collected nearly 8,000 back-to-school items, including 200 backpacks. The supplies will be donated to kids in the Mechanicsburg, Cumberland Valley, and East Pennsboro school districts. And still to come on the Noon Report for Friday, accused killer Luigi Mangione, stressed out at sea and riding the rails in the Finger Lakes.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. A recent article by science writer Elizabeth Svoboda at the Wall Street Journal argued that an occasional 24-hour break is good for both mind and body. Here's what she wrote, quote, "These micro-retreats have proved so energizing I now take a few each year, and science suggests such hiatuses, despite their brief duration, can renew enthusiasm and relieve mental exhaustion in potent ways. They're a welcome temporary escape from a chaotic and overclocked world," end quote. Now, this is not about getting away from reality, she explained. It's about getting into a better headspace. Because modern work involves so much jumping from one task to another without having time to properly focus, a regular break is a simple, constructive way to improve your life. Now, Christians and Jews might hear all this and think, congrats, you invented the Sabbath. Because thousands of years ago, of course, before anyone had ever done studies on rest or brain activity, Moses told God's people to take a day off every 7. But in fact, secular takes on life practices and rituals very often reflect the truths that the Bible has always proclaimed. Now, Svoboda learned to prize rest and time away as a mom with small kids. But everyone needs rest. This is especially difficult for Americans who can have trouble even taking vacation, at least compared to our European counterparts. And we might blame our bosses for that, but even when we're given the chance, Americans simply aren't very good at rest. As Jay Dixit described in an article written a few years ago entitled "We're Doing Downtime Wrong," the habit of scrolling and streaming to so-called relax still requires the brain to focus, even if it's on irrelevant things. By contrast, Dixit noted, studies suggest that the imagination network of the brain is just as essential as the task-positive network is. And that's why Archimedes' eureka moment came to him when he was sitting in the bath, and why Newton formulated the law of gravity when he saw an apple fall in an orchard. The epiphanies that seem to bubble up from nowhere when your mind is wandering are actually products of the imagination network, end quote. And though the average working American still works the same rough 40-hour work week, there is now far less shut-off time. Our phones function more like our computers, which keep us tethered to work of some kind at all hours. In other words, the rhythm of constant activity that's in our culture, even while lying on a couch or sitting on a beach, is not the kind of rest that you read about in Scripture. In his book, 24/6, A Prescription for a Happier, Healthier Life, physician Matthew Sleeth noted that only one of the 10 Commandments begins with the word remember. It's the one about the Sabbath. As Sleeth put it, it's almost as if God knew we would forget. When we do remember, we often think of the Sabbath as a burden, not as a gift. But Jesus said that man was not made for the Sabbath was made for us. And that, of course, is because God is for us, not against us. To remember the Sabbath is not to follow a rule, it's to receive one of God's greatest gifts to his creation. In doing so, we not only remember our own frailty, but we can be refreshed by hearing his voice and better following his calling in our lives. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint.
All right, thank you, John. Outside next, weather where you live with meteorologist Kevin Williams.
Here is your Family Life forecast for this afternoon. A mixture of clouds and sunshine. Now, there will be a brief shower or a thunderstorm in a few spots. Spotty and isolated, but it'll be out there. The high temperatures, mid-70s to the mid-80s. Overnight tonight, clear to partly cloudy, low temperatures comfortable, 50s to near 60. Tomorrow, mostly sunny in Pennsylvania. A mix of clouds and sunshine in New York. Low humidity, a pleasant day. High in the 70s to near 80. Sunday, mostly cloudy and humid with showers and thunder arriving. Could be some drenching downpours on Sunday. High temps 70s and low 80s.
All right, thank you, Kevin. This is the Noon Report on Family Life. I'm your host, Bob Price. Lots to get to Friday, the 14th of August. New York's chief executive pleading with local police to end their ICE arrangements. Natalie Migliore explains.
Governor Kathy Hochul says 5 agencies have already ended their contracts with ICE, but she's still waiting for confirmation from the Nassau County Sheriff's Office and Police Department that they'll formally end their agreements. However, Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman, who is running as New York's Republican candidate for governor, has been a staunch supporter of federal immigration operations. It comes as President Trump visits Nassau County's local police facilities to talk with Blakeman and local officials about crime statistics and immigration enforcement. In New York, I'm Natalie Migliore.
Accused killer Luigi Mangione expected to plead guilty in federal court in Manhattan today. He's charged with killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson on a New York City sidewalk just before Christmas 2 years ago. This plea comes less than a month before Mangione is set to go to trial on state charges. ABC News legal analyst Dan Abrams.
If he was ever going to have an argument about double jeopardy, this is the way to do it. Plead guilty in the federal case, make an argument in New York State where it's very protective against double jeopardy, that he shouldn't be tried again.
Mangione's trying to avoid a life sentence if he can. Former federal prosecutor Jonathan Fahey has more on the rationale for today's guilty plea.
I wouldn't necessarily call it a brilliant strategy. I would call it probably the best among 3 bad options for him. But remember, this isn't necessarily a bad deal for the government because he's admitting what he's doing and faces life imprisonment.
Mangione is the privileged 28-year-old son of a wealthy Maryland family who raged against corporate America. He was captured 5 days after the Thompson murder at a McDonald's restaurant in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Major scare at Chicago's O'Hare Airport. A United flight blew out a tire on the runway during takeoff yesterday. More than 165 passengers and crew were forced to deplane and take another flight to Phoenix. Thankfully, no reports of any injury. War Secretary Hegseth is dismissing rumors of a growing mental health crisis aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln in the Middle East. The Navy Times reports a record-long deployment and lack of basic supplies may have led to sailors trying to jump overboard. ABC News Pentagon reporter Luis Martinez.
ABC News has confirmed that one sailor went overboard in early August and that sailor was rescued from the ocean and is now still aboard the carrier right now. So that's the incident that we're most aware of right now.
The 5,000 sailors and Marines aboard the Lincoln have not stepped foot on dry land this entire year. It's the longest deployment ever of a U.S. aircraft carrier. A second carrier, the USS George Washington, left last week from Vietnam and will be replacing the Lincoln soon. Water woes in the Hoosier State. Reporter Alex Perez has more from Muncie, Indiana.
The National Guard called in after the governor declared a statewide disaster emergency following days of relentless storms. Flash flooding swallowing entire neighborhoods, roads vanishing underwater, rivers bursting from their banks, racing through communities around Indianapolis. Rescue crews working around the clock searching for anyone still trapped, and at least 3 people dead because of the severe storms.
A public relations problem continues to plague the WNBA, the Women's Professional Basketball League, refusing to clarify eligibility rules for transgender athletes. CNN sportscaster Don Riddell blames players like Sophie Cunningham for stoking controversy when there really isn't any.
There aren't any trans players in the league, and yet Cunningham's call to ban trans girls and women from girls and women's sports has made it a real thing. And the actions of political agitators who probably couldn't tell you that much about the league are now using the WNBA to push their own divisive agendas in the culture wars.
Brianna Lyman writes for The Federalist, a conservative think tank.
It is an issue because the left has pushed men into
to young girls in women's sports. So Sophie Cunningham is actually being a voice for the voiceless. I think she's also probably preemptively protecting her own league for the day when a mentally ill man tries to steal a spot from a female player.
The WNBA's collective bargaining agreement claims only women can play in the women's league, but it has refused to clearly define what it means to be a woman. You're listening to the Noon Report for Friday on Family Life.
Welcome to Family Life Staycations, a summertime feature where we highlight great places to visit around the Family Life listening area. I'm Mark Webster, and this week, all aboard, we're going to ride the Finger Lakes Rail Experience. Steve Hopper is the general manager, and that's not the only hat he wears at the Finger Lakes Rail Experience. I was impressed because you're not only the general manager, you're the engineer on the train, too. It's quite a job combination.
Yes, exactly. I've been an engineer for a lot of years and get to enjoy running the train as well as being a part of the management team, yes.
Yeah. So how did Finger Lakes Rail Experience get started, and how did you wind up getting involved?
Finger Lakes Railway themselves used to operate a passenger service on their line, and they were looking for some alternatives back in 2025. So they reached out to our company, and we have a lot of experience running tourist trains in various places in America. And so they approached us and said, hey, is this something you'd be interested in doing? So we came down in early 2025 and took a look and decided, yes, this is something we want to get involved in. And that's how it all started. We had a very successful first season in 2025 and moved upwards of about 13,000 passengers during our season, which ran from July through October. Here we are back in 2026 with season number 2.
If I picture classic rail travel, I'm thinking like the train scene in White Christmas, something like that, Murder on the Orient Express. Give us a little flavor of what the cars are like. I understand they're like 1940s vintage.
Absolutely correct, yes. So there's no requirement to come in dressed in 1940s attire, so to speak, but we definitely put across the 1940s vibe. So what you're going to see when you get on board the train, all the cars have been restored to their basically original condition, obviously fully air conditioned, but the vibe there of the 1940s, whether it be the upholstery, the carpets, the different seating arrangements, the different styles of cars. We have a table car, for example, which is basically, if you consider like an old style dining car. We have a wonderful lounge car, which is just a fantastic social environment there. And then basically the pride of the fleet, the tail end car, which is called the Hickory Creek. That particular car is a rounded end observation car with great big huge windows in it. It's a very famous car. The history of that car was built in 1949, and it's actually been fully restored to its condition back when it was built. So the end result there is not only will you be riding a wonderful observation car, but the bedrooms have all been restored. The bedrooms are there for display only, but you can actually see how those bedrooms would have looked in 1949 in the 50s when the car was operating on the 20th Century Limited. All of the cars have some sort of connection to the New York Central, which makes it even more interesting because, of course, this line, the Finger Lakes Railway line, is an old New York Central line. So there's definitely a connection there as well, and that makes it a lot of fun as well.
It's got to be a lot of fun for you, especially when you're an engineer on the train. You must get some really fun feedback from people who maybe haven't done anything like this before.
Absolutely. We've got our regular bunch of folks that tour around the country. They're very interested in trains. They ride as many as they can. That's a portion of our clientele for sure. But what's really a lot of fun for us is when you get people on board that have never been on a train in their life. Mm-hmm. And they actually come on board and they experience this wonderful environment that we offer on the train, whether it's a wine tasting trip, whether it's what we call an evening club. It's a pretty unique experience. And, you know, this is not Amtrak. This is definitely not Amtrak. Yes. It's a pretty unique experience. And again, what I always tell people as the engineer, I mean, I love running trains. I've been doing it all of my life. But what makes this so special is our onboard staff. They are what I consider top notch. They will make this experience so special for our clients. And at the end of the day, when we're standing there, we're stopped and we're parked and we're disembarking our passengers. And I'm always there for that as well after, stopping the train. The people coming down what we call the vestibule, the stairs, just come down off this train. And this has just been so fantastic. I want to do it again. It's, once in a lifetime kind of thing.
So where can you climb aboard? I know there are a few different points. And where can you go? What can you see?
So this season, we've basically focused on Waterloo. You board the train in Waterloo, and you're going to be going through Seneca Falls. You go down the hill, and you're going to cross right over the middle of Cayuga Lake. We call it the Causeway. Of course, the tracks are on top of the stone, but it's the only location of a Finger Lake that you can cross over with a physical crossing. So you end up with water on both sides of you. It's absolutely spectacular. We end up over in the area of Cayuga and turn around and come back. It's a very spectacular ride. We've been working with the village quite extensively to attract tourism into the area. Part of what we do is working with all the communities along the line. Last year, we ran out of Canandaigua. We've also run out of Geneva, and there's plans for other locations as well in the future. However, for this season, Waterloo is the place to go to catch our train.
I know you feature different things. There's wine trains, there's evening trains, a little bit of something for anybody, family-wise.
Absolutely correct. There's actually 4 different classes of service. In a nutshell, if you go to our website, which is flxrailexperience.com, you're going to be able to view the different options. And those options vary from an adult evening club with an onboard guitar player, charcuterie boxes, there's desserts. That's more of an adult experience. However, every train also offers a car that is a family car. So if you want to bring your grandchildren or your sons and daughters, you can, and it's not an alcohol environment. There's no wine and things like that. So there's something for everybody, and that's what makes it a lot of fun as well.
We'll sum up here then. You call this the caboose of our time together. What folks can expect on the Finger Lakes Rail Experience?
Bottom line, come on out and enjoy the fantastic onboard service. You're going to have a wonderful time. The scenery is amazing. And I guess most importantly is experience rail travel like it used to be back in the old days.
That's Steve Hopper with the Finger Lakes Rail Experience. Learn more at flxrailexperience.com. And this has been Family Life Staycations, a weekly summertime feature highlighting great places to visit around the Family Life listening area. Please join us again next time as we hit the road for another Family Life Staycation.
All right, Mark, can't wait to see where we go next. All of our staycation destinations, by the way, are available online anytime. Just go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or FamilyLife.org. Finally, at noon, a stray cat recently survived an 800-mile car trip from New Jersey to Georgia. That's some cat right there. It was found underneath the car of a University of Georgia student. Jaden Sawyer discovered the cat after noticing a paw reaching out from beneath her parked vehicle some 11 hours after she left New Jersey. Campus police and animal rescue struggled to free that cat, eventually getting help from local tire shop who dismantled part of the car where the cat was embedded. The cat is now named Jersey, appropriately so, said to be doing well and will be available for adoption soon. That's our world, the world we live in. Friday, the 14th of August. Have a wonderful weekend. I'm Bob Price, Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.